there was a insane boom in the sports card industry. Everyone was buying everything 5-10x in price, if not more.
Yeah.
What would you say was the motivating factor there? Was it was there a connection to nostalgia there?
Pandemic, people are experiencing a lot of health, social, and economic anxiety. They were worried about catching COVID and getting sick. They were lonely because of lockdowns. There was the risk of losing their jobs. And so all these things created a recipe for all kinds of anxiety and stress, right? Well, it turns out that people turn to nostalgia. You can be nostalgic at any time for lots of different reasons, but we're especially nostalgic in times of distress, in times of psychological stress, right? And what nostalgia does is it helps take us out of that moment in time. And again, bringing back the mental time travel thing, being like, yeah, right now it's tough. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of worry. But life is bigger than this moment. And I have all these experiences behind me that were meaningful, that were important, that involved hanging out with the people I wanted, that involving having, doing the things I wanted at work, involving the freedom to go out and be part of my community. We can look forward to that again. And so if you look at data from Spotify, for instance, during the pandemic, people were listening to more music in general because they, were at home more and had more time to do that. But what was really fascinating is nostalgic music or older music from previous eras, decades, was particularly popular during the pandemic, really shot up. Same thing, I've done some work with companies like Warner Brothers, similar things, like the types of shows and movies people were streaming, the nostalgic ones, the older ones from decades past went up. What's really fascinating about this too, is this wasn't just for people my age and older. So I'm Gen X, it's not, people wouldn't be surprised that I'm, listening to music from the 90s during the pandemic. But what's really fascinating is seeing like younger generations. Gen Z also had this increased interest in older media content. This gets back to your historical point about people collecting old cards before their time. So there is a fascination even among young people about what life was like, especially pre-internet era. There's like a real fascination among Gen Z about what social life and cultural life was like before everyone was online so much. And so this kind of stuff is, it provides comfort, but it also allows us to find, like I said, step out of a moment and deal with, think about ways to move forward. Another way to think about this is, like I said, distress triggers nostalgia. Another way to say it more simply is when we feel like something is missing from our lives, we're problem solvers. We want to fix that. How do we come up with ideas how to fix it? Well, the future is unknown, like it's uncertain. We can envision possibilities, but the past already happened, and so we can draw wisdom and experiences from the past. It turns out even pasts that were before us, like our collective past, well before we were even born. And that's what people are doing in times of uncertainty, distress. When they feel like they're missing something, they look to the past nostalgically, and that helps inspire and motivate them. And so it's not a surprise to me at all that during the pandemic, nostalgia media consumption and nostalgic hobbies shot up. And we're seeing this trend continue. And you could say things like, well, there's a lot of worry people have right now about the effect of artificial intelligence will potentially have on their jobs. Or there's a lot of political anxiety. Or, pick your topic that people are concerned about that's there's a lot of negative media, right? Right. And so not surprisingly, we're seeing like a real increase, again, especially among young people of these trends, whether it's buying CDs and tapes and like old movies, whether it's like taking up hobbies like roller skating, whether it's trying, a real interest in like physical analog technology. We're seeing all these like trends that seem to be driven, at least in part, by people's worries about what's going on in the world right now and trying to find like some comfort and some inspiration.